I run Design by Mercedes. So today I'm actually going to be talking, not going to be doing like a how-to or tutorial piece. And that is because for the last 3-ish months, I have been working on a full shop revamp, like absolutely everything. A little bit of background to go way, way back. I started my shop a long time ago, about 2014, trying to make some crafts. And then once I got a full-time job, it was very hard to balance, so I wasn't able to keep it running. And then when the pandemic hit, can't go anywhere, so I just started making art, like all of the art. And it made me really sad every day to just see it, getting piled up, stacked up higher and higher, because there was nothing else to do with it. There's not a lot of space in my home to continuously hang pieces. I do live in an apartment, and it's already pretty littered with other artist work that I've purchased from various events throughout Rochester. So I had to figure out something to do with it, and nothing would have made me happier than actually having it be in other people's homes. So after a few months of putting some things together and selling, I realized that because of my nature, because of how I work, it was very hodgepodge and there was a lot of stuff. So this was an attempt to really wrangle it all in and make pieces that not only I needed and I wanted to have, but that I thought would be very helpful to people, and really get to the root of who I am. So who am I? I already said I'm Mercedes, but I am also a pagan. I do witchcraft. That's my thing. I love it. I've done it since I was like 16. It's just a part of who I am. And the thing that I like most about it is, like a lot of people, I love spooky season and I love Halloween and I love all that stuff. But there's not always a lot of great materials and a lot of pieces that I saw that were that theme, unless it was Halloween. We all know Michaels and Joanne have those fantastic displays, but those pieces are very kitschy. Sometimes they're hard to get. They sell out very quickly. So some of the stuff is pieces that I particularly wanted to have in my home, and so I made them myself. The first ones actually being these gorgeous planchettes. So I love stuff like this. I have an entire wall in my living room that is just a bookcase. The whole wall is a bookcase. And I have little items like this all over it. And I really wanted just some nice, classy, like planchette pieces to go on there. And I was having a really hard time finding the ones that I wanted to look exactly how I wanted, because I wanted a little bit of gold detailing. I wanted to customize. I wanted them thicker. So I made all of these guys. So these are actually hand cut, every single one of them. I have my wonderful partner who helps me cut everything. And then I actually use a Cricut machine to do all of the vinyl cutting for these guys. So these are actually also hand-drawn illustrations that I have done. And then cut them out in vinyl and put them on here. And then this is coated with an acrylic gloss top coat. These two, the gold flake pieces, are actually, this is gold leaf that I have placed onto here, and then again sealed in with an acrylic top coat. I love these because they're just an extra fun little detail that I've been placing kind of all around my house, to have a spooky feel, but something that I also feel like I can personally leave up for the rest of the year without it looking like Halloween. Because that's kind of the last thing I wanted, was to just have items around my house that people walked in and be like, it looks like Halloween. So the next piece, and this one I am super, super proud of, during the time of the pandemic, because my normal go-to is drawing, painting, illustration, like that's my go-to. I'm not much into the 3D work, but I've gotten very into it, and I've gotten really into resin making, so much so that I actually made for myself a little altar piece right here. And she is all in white, so it's a little bit hard to see her. But from her, I was able to create an entire mold, and then was able to cast these absolutely gorgeous resin mold pieces. Um, so these guys, they're just, I'm in love with them. Um, each one of them, I've taken that same gold leafing and hand placed it inside. Um, did the gold detailing on the top of them, like with gold powder into the cast. Um, I only currently have them in red and black. That's the color scheme that is throughout my house. Um, so these to me were essential because I was looking for my altar place. I was looking for a statue for a goddess, and everyone that I found was either made out of bronze and highly detailed, and those are fantastic, but it's not my style. I prefer the more items that look um, like very old traditional like carved stone pieces. So I just made one myself because that's really what I wanted, and hopefully somebody else will like them as well. I think they're very nice. They're about almost 5 inches tall. Um, and again, every single one of these, I'm doing them hand poured one by one as people need them. Um, but with all that resin pouring, I realized one of my favorite things, and I used to do this all the time when I was in middle school, was actually not just tarot cards, because everyone knows tarot cards, but using a pendulum. I love pendulums. I think they're very pretty. Not only are they great as a divination tool, but I think they're fun to just really play with, also to hang up in windows. Like, I like the way they look. So from that, I actually created my own. So these are the final versions of what came out. There's this beautiful red one. I did a secondary one that is a blue pendulum with a moon piece on top. And then the final one is actually, it's really cute. It's a little guy, my tiny little baby with the little tree of life. Now, each one of these is actually a resin pour. And what I've done here is I've gone in and I've actually poured two separate resins at the same time to get the color mixture in here. I'm not adding alcohol based into this. This is actually like color for resin. And then after they're hardened, built the entire piece out. This was a lot of trial and error to figure out how to get, the temperature right, especially with Rochester's fluctuating temperatures recently. Um, it's been a very steep learning curve, but I'm so happy with the way they turned out, and I couldn't be happier. And I do hope they can help somebody as well. Um, and then the final piece that I worked on, and this is specifically because when I was getting the toppers for the pendulums, I found the cutest little charm and I had to get it to do something with it because I wanted it so bad. Um, so this is actually, if it would like to focus, this is actually a tiny little bunny on a moon, um, which doesn't want to focus. Here you go. He's the cutest little guy, and I know it's kind of hard to see, and I apologize for that. But this is up in my store, and this is something where it's just a bookmark. It's actually poured black resin with a gold flake powder inside. Um, I don't know about anyone else, but as a child, when I got to go to Borders Books, I loved the bookmarks, and I insisted on getting a bookmark every single time that we went. So I had like hundreds of them. Now, as an adult, I do not have bookmarks and I don't really like dog earing my books. I'm particular about them. So when I realized that I could make my own bookmark, I got very, very excited about that. And I just thought this was so cute and I really wanted to create it. So then the next pieces that I'm really excited about are kind of more, I found the items that I like to draw and illustrate. Before I was doing a lot of like take a request from somebody on TikTok, or maybe I'll work on this. These are all pieces that I want as stickers because we got our Cricut machine, I was able to make my own custom stickers, which to me, 100% love it. It's the best thing ever. So a lot of these pieces are, I decided I wanted this sticker. Um, I have them all here. There are a few of them I do not have here that are up on the site, and that's because I've already stuck them onto items because I just wanted them that bad. So the first one, and this is actually a nice little pack. These are the lunar insects. So we've got a lunar moth and a little lunar bee. I just thought they were so cute, and I really want to try to do more of a simplistic style on these guys. Um, Another one, and this is the one that actually kind of started this whole thing of making all these stickers, is my zodiac hands. So these guys, I've actually hand drawn every single hand in here. I used my hand as a reference photo to figure out different positioning and placing. And then I've gone through and I've actually done the constellation for every astrology symbol inside of one of these. I have every single astrology symbol, and all of the stickers are actually printed out on a vinyl, a glossy vinyl, and then cut. So I don't send anything off to Sticker Mule or any of those other apps. I do everything in-house. The next ones that I wanted to do that I really liked, again, I absolutely adore planchettes. So I made these tiny little planchette stickers because I wanted to put them on my stuff. These are just two of them. They are a little gem one and then an all-seeing eye one. There is another one that actually has a lunar moth in it. It's all pink, but it is sitting on my computer because I got too excited and I had to put it on my computer. Again, because I love planchettes, this is another one that I'm obsessed with. My as above, so below sticker. Super cute. I love it. I love the way it turned out. And then I think probably my favorite ones are the what I'm calling the lunatic pack. You can get either one or the other. I do have an odd obsession with the moon. um, Always note when it's full moon or new moon, make note of where we are in the phase. And because of that, and I actually have to show you, it is on my Kindle, done a lunatic hand lettering here. And then in the same colors, I made this wonderful little moon man. So I'm obsessed with them. I love them. I think they're so cute, and I'm so excited to put them absolutely everywhere because I'm running out of space now. So then the final pieces that I have for the shop relaunch, they're all prints. They are all actually pieces that, most of them are pieces that I did digitally. There are a chunk of them that I have been doing hand drawings of, and I actually have the ability now to scan in my drawing and then print out a nice digital print copy. As well, anything that is hand drawn, in a few weeks, once I have all the frames, I will be offering as fully framed pieces of the originals, if that is something you're interested in as well. So, of the prints, and these are some of these I'm super stoked for. This was actually done on a live stream with CanVC. I believe at the time it was still Shop Locally. But it is my little altar setup that I did of the skull with the candle. So this is now available as a digital print in an 8.5 by 11, as well as this tiny little 4 by 6. I am a fan. I like larger prints. I have larger prints all over my house, but I'm also really a fan of these tiny little prints, and that's why so many of my guys are offered in this tiny size. It's because I'm a big fan of being able to fit in photos where I can fit them in. And a small photo like this, I'm able to pop up onto a bookshelf as a nice little accent piece somewhere, so it doesn't have to have a full hanging place on a wall. Or these nice little ones too, I've been able to fit things like this in places that you would not normally expect. So a small photo like this, I actually have a few of these that are put like in my bathroom, because there's little wall space with everything that's already there. So a smaller piece like this is perfect for that space. So the next one, and I have actually done a time-lapse video of this on my YouTube channel, which if you are interested, I do a lot of time-lapse videos on that channel of my drawing processes. This one is actually the Medusa. I wanted to do a Medusa because every time you look up and you kind of see Medusa, from what I've seen, they do the traditional, it's like the Greek statue pieces that I've seen, where she's not as feminine as I want her to be. Because I mean, she's technically a Gorgon. And I wanted her to be beautiful because I think it's an awesome, it's a horrible story. So I think she deserved to, you know, be very, very pretty. So I did the original larger drawing of this. This is the print, and there are smaller ones where I've actually changed the background color. So I've got a white, black, and a pink background available in the 8.5 by 11 and the 4 by 6 size. The next one is actually another piece that was done on the live stream here as well. I started out doing this live, and this was the one from last time with the cow skull, where I kind of hit a point. I was working through it. I did not like how it turned out. And the video of me repainting this entire thing will be on my YouTube channel as well in a few weeks. But I basically, if anyone saw that, I completely repainted over that entire piece. And now it looks like this. So I changed the tone hues. It's totally blue now, and again, available in the tiny little guy size as well. And all of these are that I've done are also going to be available as the full piece once I get all the frames in. So if that is something you're interested in, and I specifically say that because this next one is pretty cool. I like the way the prints turned out, but the original is like fantastic, which at the current moment, it does, you know, I'm very happy to let pieces go to go live in somebody else's house. I have managed to find a little bit of space left, and my entire stairwell is now just being taken over by photos. So it's going to be a rotation through there of like the pieces and where they live until they get sold. So this last one, and this did go up on my YouTube as well. It's the anatomical skull drawing that I did with the bronze gold leafing. So these as prints, what I've actually done is I'm not re-leafing them. The bronze gold or the bronze leafing has actually stayed pretty well. I'm quite happy with how the print quality turned out to give that texture. But I'm hoping to actually do a few more pieces that are like this, where it's anatomical, very simple black and white, and then that gold leaf detailing is in there. So then the last piece that is available in both the large and the small size is actually another piece that I did a live YouTube stream for. And this one was done from an art snacks box. So I do an art snacks box every month. I take only items in the box and I use them and I make an image out of them. So that is what we have here. It's actually, I have seen these and I want one so bad, but they're very expensive. They are bugs that are encased in crystals. So my thought was, because they do run very, very expensive, and I have not saved up the money yet to purchase one, was to just create my own, so that way I could have one in my house. This original was actually made with a slow drying acrylic, which I had never worked with before. It was very interesting, very weird. And if you want to learn more about that piece, there is a video on my channel that has all that information. So then these last pieces, a few of them, this is the last hand-drawn one that I have. And this is actually an image I did of the fates, the 3 fates from Greek mythology. The original is slightly larger than this. It is only offered in the smaller size. I did do test prints of the larger size, and it kind of, the quality was not there for it. This is actually was my starting piece for Inktober practice. The entire piece is done with just black ink. Um, all I did was use black ink, like with a paintbrush, to fill everything in. These last pieces are actually all digital pieces, and these are actually all digital based on the sticker drawings I did, because some of them I made the sticker, but then I was looking around my house and I was like, oh, I would also like this right here. So I did another print of the little lunar bee. It's the little lunar bee sticker from earlier. Now there's this adorable little print for it as well as my man in the moon. And I did say I had a weird obsession with the moon, and you can see it has continued on into some of the prints. And then the last piece, this is actually a sticker set that I did not show you. These are my little witch hands with sayings. So the first one, and these are both in stickers as well, is the "You're So Vain," which I thought was very cute. Little crystal ball, just prediction. Little funny piece there. And then the next one is actually the "Spell the Tea." I thought I was being very clever. So if any of these pieces interest you, please let me know. They're all up in the shop. As well, they are available on, I do have some pieces over on Etsy as well, but please use CanVC because this is such an awesome platform that Sam has put together. Again, every month I'm going to be working on some new products as well to add back in. I do want to show you the next piece kind of that I am working on. I'm working on possibly doing another pendulum like shown earlier, but this one will use this tiny little skull hand. And I'm very, very excited about him because he's going to be really, really cool. I have a whole bunch of other colors that I'm testing and working out with, and I think the indigo purple is really going to be the one that fits with him because it's just this fantastic, rich purple. And then another piece I'm working on, because I had so much fun doing the mold making and making my whole altarpiece, I'm actually looking at doing a bowl creation as a two-part mold. So I'm hoping that I can get that whole guide together, and maybe I can actually showcase part of that next month. So again, all these pieces are up in my store. A lot of love and excitement and passion went into everything. So I hope you guys enjoy it. If anyone has questions about anything, or if you're looking at custom pieces, that is always something I'm willing to talk about. Just reach out to me. And the only other thing is I am still offering some of my original paintings that were in the store before. Some that I really, really, truly cared about, such as the planchette pieces. These babies are 5x7 acrylic painted. I was hoping to actually get frames for them. As well as I do have my entire constellation series. These are all Northern Hemisphere. I picked a specific constellation group and did acrylic paintings. They're all 5x7, and all of these actually have a mount attached on the back that I put so they can be hung immediately without being framed. So those are all of my new pieces. I'm very excited about them. I am hoping that other people will absolutely love them in their home as well. And please stay tuned for more to come. Hi, I'm Jay, and you can find me online on Twitter at UnseelyJ, on Instagram as Marble Crow, on Etsy at etsy.com/shop/Marble Crow, or on my own personal website at marblecrowblog.com. And today, I'm usually a painter. Most of my art projects and whatnot are in either watercolor, acrylic paint, or occasionally mixed media. And today I wanted to talk a little bit and give some demonstrations of how I incorporate gold leaf and some other metallic elements into the paintings and other projects that I make. I wasn't always an artist. I wanted to be, honestly. I was always obsessed with art class when I was a little kid. I actually would end up cutting the classes I didn't want to go to and sitting in on art classes I wasn't actually signed up for. So while I wasn't doing super great in history class, I had excellent grades in a sculpture class that I wasn't actually enrolled in. Um, but even though I had a lot of artistic aspirations as a kid, my family wasn't super into the idea of me pursuing a career in fine arts. It can be very difficult to make a sustainable living doing that, so they kind of tried to steer me in a lot of other directions. And I ended up actually going into chemistry and starting to work for an environmental testing lab, which is a really fascinating job. Honestly, I did a lot of soil and water testing. A lot of my uh, testing results and whatnot were used in litigation. I managed to help bust a lot of companies that were doing illegal dumping and all kinds of other just horrible activities and put a stop to that. So that was great. But while I was exposed to a lot of challenges and a lot of really interesting work, I was also exposed to a whole lot of weird chemicals and other various substances. And about 5 years into working at the lab, I became very sick with an unfortunately incurable rare neurological disorder, which has actually caused me to lose a good deal of my ability to see. I'm not blind, or I don't know that I'm legally blind yet, but what it has done is it has really heavily impacted and kind of distorted the way that my eyes and my optic nerves and parts of my brain perceive things like color, shadow, reflections, and light, which is something that comes across in a lot of the art pieces that I make. And another thing it did too was kind of force me to very quickly come to terms with my own sense of mortality. I used to be very, very, very cripplingly thanatophobic. The very idea of it just absolutely struck terror in me, just all the time for pretty much my entire life up until that point. But when something like that hits you, then you're kind of forced to confront those feelings sort of head on, and you don't really get to do it on your own timeline anymore. So
what ended up happening is a lot of my artwork began to take on a sort of like memento mori aspect to me. I do, if you've seen my work, I paint a lot of birds that are traditionally associated as harbingers or symbols of death. I paint a lot of crows and ravens and other carrion birds. I love them. They're kind of like muses to me, really, which is nice because then if I'm ever having an artistic block, I always have a subject that I can go back to and paint. But rather than like a lot of the stereotypical kind of darker, like Gothic depictions of these birds and these symbols, I always paint them in very bright colors with a lot of metallic elements and a lot of reflective and just very cheerful kind of, I guess, cheerful atmosphere, really. And one thing, it's kind of helped me shift that mindset from confronting the idea of mortality from experiencing with dread to experiencing with not necessarily enthusiasm, but curiosity and even humor. It's been really helpful for me, and I hope that it's something that can be really helpful for other people too. Now, one thing that having a background in chemistry does help me with, though, is being able to kind of I can do a lot of really cool stuff, honestly, with art supplies that I couldn't really do before, just because I have a pretty good understanding of how different chemical classes work together or don't work together, and how to achieve results that I wouldn't necessarily be able to do just working with one particular, like working just in acrylic paint or just in watercolor. So today I have some traditional regular gold leaf, which is just very thin sheets of pressed metal, hence the name gold leaf. Yeah. This is 24 karat gold leaf, which is a little on the pricey side for 10 sheets. And the sheets are only about 3 by 3, so they're not very large. This was about, if I remember correctly, about $20. And $2 to $3 per sheet is about what you can expect to pay for this until you start getting into like really large quantities. One thing I found is that you can find it a bit cheaper going through baking supply companies than through art supply or framing companies. Edible gold leaf is 24 karat. And I will get into why in a minute. But the other type of gold leaf that I have that I occasionally work with, though not quite as often, is liquid gold leaf. I have not been able to find this in a 24 karat form. I've only ever found it as imitation gold leaf, which doesn't actually contain any gold. And these both have their advantages and disadvantages. The primary disadvantage that I found is all metals fall somewhere relative to each other on what's called the reactivity scale. Metals like gold and platinum are at one end of the scale because they're pretty much inert. You have a platinum ring, you can wear that ring every day, and it's going to look pretty much the same at, a year from now, 2 years from now, etc. And then you have metals like copper, or silver rather, which has a tendency to tarnish, and then copper, which also has a tendency to tarnish and more readily form oxides and other compounds with other chemicals in its environment. And then at the very other end of the scale, you have things like potassium and sodium, which is so reactive that if you drop a chunk of it in a kiddie pool, it will explode, as one of my chemistry professors demonstrated once. Very cool experiment to watch, not necessarily something I'd recommend trying at home. So why does this matter here? Well, 24 karat gold leaf is pretty much inert. There's not really a whole lot that's going to change how it looks or how it behaves, whether it's in the packet or applied to a canvas. So that means that even though it's more expensive, it's a bit less fussy in terms, like chemically. The application can be a little fussy, don't get me wrong. But chemically, it's not going to harm you and you're not going to harm it. The difference with imitation gold leaf, and this is chiefly a concern with the dry, like pressed sheets of imitation gold leaf, it is typically made out of different alloys of copper, which look like gold, but notably aren't gold. That means that they're not inert. So with that, you really need to use a lot of specialized tools, cotton gloves, different knives and whatnot, just to make sure that when you're applying it, you really avoid getting any of the salts or acids or other naturally occurring compounds on your skin onto the leaf itself. Because what will end up happening is that will actually encourage it to tarnish. Now, this is totally not a big deal if you're creating works that are intended to transform over time. You might actually want the metal components of your artwork to look different as time goes on. But if you want it to look pretty much like it did the day you finished painting it, you really do have to be careful not to touch it. And you also have to be very careful to make sure that it's properly sealed and protected in whatever form is appropriate for the rest of the work. So the other reason that I choose to use the 24 karat gold leaf over a lot of the imitation gold leaf, particularly the liquid gold leaf, is that this stuff is pretty much copper and xylene. Xylene is it's a solvent. It is pretty much one of like the dry components of mineral spirits, so it's very much akin to paint thinner. Xylene does not mix readily with water. So when you're using something like this, you have to use paint thinner to clean your brushes. I don't generally work with oils really, especially because just I have headaches pretty much all the time. So working with anything with those heavy kind of fumes and solvent stuff just really doesn't work too well for me. But anyway, as anyone who has worked with both water-based and oil-based or solvent-based media knows, you can't really use the same brushes with oils and solvents as you can with water. They don't clean up the same, and once you have used something with oil, no matter how well you wash it, no matter how well you clean it with paint thinner, no matter what you do, it never really absorbs water-soluble media the same way again. I don't really like having a whole lot of separate tools if I can get away with it, so that's why I usually stick to water-soluble media. And since this is xylene, it doesn't really get a whole lot of use because I have to make sure that I don't use my regular brushes with it. So let's see. Okay, now when it comes to adhering the dry gold leaf, you have to use a specialized adhesive for it. Well, not that specialized. There are specialized adhesives, sizing, that is used to adhere gold leaf. There are a couple different types, and I don't use any of them. I can't be bothered, really, ultimately. I like having materials on hand that can perform more than one function. I probably wouldn't use dedicated gold leaf sizing for anything but that, and that's kind of, it feels like a waste to me, you know? So instead, I use this stuff, which is a thick gel gloss medium. And this stuff is awesome because it's very thick for one, so you can use it to create sort of an impasto effect and get really like cool dimensional looks on canvases. It's very shiny, which is really neat if you want to like really make bright colors pop. And if you mix it 50-50 with water, it makes a really good isolation coat. And I'll get to that in a bit too. But gloss medium works very well for adhering gold leaf to a variety of different surfaces and a variety of different media. I can't really vouch for what is in other types of sizing, so they may, generally when you're working, even in mixed media compositions, you want to avoid using too many different types of components. If you're working with acrylic and oil together, for example, there are specific rules for how you have to apply everything in order to make sure that the painting dries and behaves and ages the way you want it to. So if you're working with acrylic, you're best off sticking with acrylic media, even when it comes to adhesives and such. And what I have here today, and hopefully I can move this camera so you can see it better, but I have an acrylic painting that is not completely finished, but finished enough for demonstration purposes. And there we go. Okay, and I've got my gloss medium. I have some gold leaf. And I have a whole mess of brushes here. So yeah, there we go. Okay. There are a couple areas on here that we do with a little bit of embellishment, I feel. So I'm going to take gloss medium And I'm not going to apply a whole lot. Honestly, with this stuff, less is really more, just because what will end up happening otherwise is um, after you apply the gold leaf, you have to brush away the excess. Hopefully this works and doesn't make a liar out of me. You have to brush away the excess, and if you use too much, what will end up happening is that nice thick cushion of gloss medium will just kind of cause the gold leaf to glide into areas that you don't necessarily want it to go. And while that's not really the end of the world, I'll brush off some more of the excess here. That's not really the end of the world. You can just paint over it. Looks like I might have to touch up a couple spots here. It is a bit of a pain. So you don't have to deal with that, then why, you know? Fortunately, if you do end up having to paint over a gold leaf, a little bit of titanium white can cover a multitude of sins, and then you can pretty much just do whatever it is you need to do. I have seen some abstract artists take gold leaf and apply it directly to wet paint in a way that does look really cool. But because this stuff is so thin, you don't have a whole lot of control over it. And I'm usually trying to highlight specific areas on a canvas. So that's why I don't really just apply it to the paint itself while it's drying. I have to wait for it to be dry. That way I don't end up with it stuck a lot of places I don't mean it to go. And, whoops, you see in that corner. And there we go. There's a couple spots here that I'm going to have to go back and touch up, but that's okay. So there I have some gold leaf, just sort of to highlight the buds there in the corner. Let's see, probably do a couple more here. I actually used a knife painting technique to create the crepe myrtle flowers up here. So we'll just dab some of the gloss medium on here. Just take a little bit of the gold leaf. Again, I'm not too worried about touching it because this stuff won't go up and tarnish on me. I'll just kind of dab that in place with my brush. And there's a little bit, I don't know if you can really see it on the camera, but there's a little bit of just kind of a little gold embellishment there too. And let's see, I'll definitely go back and do that with more of the flowers, but I don't know that I have time to do it on camera right now. Now, you can also use gold leaf on paper. The only consideration there is, again, you want to be careful what kind of adhesive you use, because if you use something that's too watery or too solvent-based or too oily or what have you, then what will end up happening is the water will take up too much of it, and it either won't stick the way it's supposed to, or you'll end up with your, in this case, watercolors bleeding underneath or weird greasy spots in places you don't want them. The gel medium is nice because it's very thick and it's not really going to go a whole lot of places. It's just going to kind of go where I want it to. I actually have a painting here. This is pretty much my art journal. So that you can see that here's some areas of gold down here that, again, I applied with the gloss medium. And up here, we have an abstract landscape that I painted the other day. And I'm just going to highlight a couple areas. Over here. And over there. On the new sheet. Stuff does wrinkle very easily. Oh no. This person's really easy. And there you go. There's just a couple little spots of gold there. And there. And this also works for other media too. You can use it with ink, you can use it with graphite. The only thing is that if you're going to use it with something like graphite or chalk pastels or other very dry media like that, I would probably recommend putting down a fixative first, because otherwise what can end up happening is the gel medium will sit on top of the dust, basically the chalk dust or the graphite dust, and mix with it and lose some of its stickiness, and it might lift off. And so you definitely want to have something between the very dry media and the gel medium before you go ahead and start laying that down at all. Now, after you have put gold leaf on something, again, this stuff isn't going to tarnish very readily, but you still want to protect it. For acrylic paintings, opinions are kind of divided, I think, on whether you really need an isolation coat or not. That's mostly an art restoration thing. An isolation coat serves as kind of a buffer layer between the actual paint itself and between the varnish that will go on top. Not all artists even varnish their paintings. A lot of the ones that work with acrylic also used acrylic-based varnishes, but typically what an isolation coat is supposed to do is, if an art restoration specialist has to strip off that varnish, it's just a little buffer, basically. It lessens the likelihood that they're going to end up damaging the painting layer underneath. So with acrylic, typically what I do is I mix a 50-50 mixture of the gel medium and water, and then go over that. And it's pretty neat because it makes everything super shiny, and you can see what your painting's going to look like when you actually finish everything and put the varnish on. So you can get an idea of what the finished product's going to look like before you actually commit to varnishing it, because after you put varnish on, you can't really go back and change anything. The gloss medium isolation coat gives you a chance to see what the finished product is going to look like before, but still be able to go back and make a couple of adjustments here and there. Obviously, you can't really do that with watercolor, but watercolor, ink, and other art pieces of that nature are traditionally displayed under glass, and the glass should be enough to protect everything just as it is. You don't really need to worry about an isolation coat. I probably wouldn't use imitation gold leaf with things that aren't going to get an isolation coat, but I'm pretty paranoid about that kind of thing, honestly. So that is pretty much how you apply it, how you protect it. Um, that's basically it as far as demonstration purposes, as far as demonstrations go. I also have two paintings here that I recently finished. They still need to be varnished, but that I applied gold leaf to. Here is one. And as much as I love this stuff, I always find myself having to restrain myself because my magpie instincts kick in and I just want to put it on everything. But if you highlight everything, you end up highlighting nothing. So it's really less is more when you're dealing with something of that nature. And then here I have a companion piece to that one, which I actually completely screwed up putting the gold leaf on because the paint was dry to the touch, but wasn't completely dry when I went to apply it. So what ended up happening was I had this nice big gold square right across the whole bottom left corner of the painting. And fortunately, like I said, a little titanium white covers a multitude of sins because I had to go in and basically repaint a lot of what I'd already done over the top of the gold leaf that I had accidentally glued down over everything I did. So, but fortunately, it turned out okay.